Well, I want to thank everybody and welcome you all to this live stream of the CO visit. And as you can see here, we've got a special panel put together. And I want to thank the people who are already right off the bat. We already got a couple of viewers in here, and that's awesome. And hopefully that'll go up. So, again, I want to welcome everyone here, Colin here as usual, and my trusty coffee as usual. And we got Carol back again. And thank you, Carol, because she was the mastermind last minute that threw this all together and helped us. And a very special guest here, Justin from XJW Diaries. I'm sure many of you out there are probably subscribed. You've watched his videos. Last night I had someone, because I made a post about the live stream today, and right away I had a message, and somebody said that when they came out of the organization is right around when Justin started his videos. So he's been watching
Oh
you
wow.
since like the beginning. So yeah, that is
Wow.
awesome. So hopefully you'll have some fans here too. You'll draw some people. So I want to thank everybody again for making this effort, being here. And I know Justin's on a tight schedule with your little child, and we know how that is. It's tough. So I just want to get in here real quick. We'll just pause really quick because I do my usual intro. So let's just do this real quick. Okay. Well, once again, thank you for everybody for being here and welcome, welcome. So today we're going to be tackling a subject, a topic that is on the minds of a lot of viewers out there, a lot of subscribers that have made comments about this on videos. They've sent messages, and among all of us, maybe with our collective experience and all of us being at different stages in our lives and in this process after having left the Watchtower organization, and something that seems to be for all of us very difficult. I would say, particularly for ex witnesses, this is very, very difficult. How do you find faith again after Watchtower? That's what we're going to talk about today. And I hope that for the viewers out there that were asking about this, I hope this will be a benefit for you. I hope that these other points of view of Carol and Justin from XJW Diaries, and by the way, go check out his channel as well. Go support him. And none of us have the answers. Let's get that disclaimer out there right now. We don't have the answers. Nobody here is a guru. Nobody here is a one answer for all. I know it all. I did this. That this is going to be as individual as each person. But among who are here, you'll get a different point of view, and maybe something will click, something will resonate with you, and you can say, "Oh man, I didn't think of that, or I didn't try that." So we'll get started here with the topic, and just let you guys go. Whoever wants to start, and maybe, well, first of all, Justin and Carol. I'm sorry, I'm going to talk to Justin just for a second. I don't mean to leave you by yourself there, but since I'm practically like right off the cuff meeting Justin for the first time here, and so maybe Justin, because I don't know about the viewers that are watching right now, what your background is. Maybe you can just give a quick little summary of where you're coming from, your experiences as an XJW, and then get right into it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was a witness for about 15 years, from 11 years old to about 25, 26 years old. So in the span of life, not super long time, but in life itself, those are such critical years. That's the years when you are truly becoming who you are, when you're going through adolescence, when you are, I mean, really finding your place in the world. And you're not really allowed to find your place in the world when you have an organization that's telling you who you're going to be. And so that definitely played a very critical part in my life. Um, Getting out of it was, I mean, I'm sure as your viewers know, is it's incredibly traumatic experience. You are losing a piece of yourself because again, they're telling you who you are. So you're losing that. Now you're out in this unknown world with an unknown self. What do? And that's a big reason why I started my channel, was because it's such a unique experience that it can be very beneficial to hear from other people who have gone through the same thing and who have come out on the other side okay. Because a lot of times, you're in that organization, they give you all these warnings about, oh, this is gonna happen, this is gonna, if you leave and you really do need that assurance, you're gonna be okay. So
Very interesting. And Carol, maybe you too. Give us a quick summary of your experience with the JWs when you came out, all of that. Again, you were here on here before, but just in case, we don't know who's watching. So
Well, I came in as an adult. I was 27 and I was in for almost 25 years, but I was POMI for several years before waking up. And it was a pretty quick waking up period. It was a bit of a shock to my system because I fully intended at some point, I hadn't determined when, that I was going to go back because I felt there was a need for somebody to befriend those on the fringes, those who are always left out, those who are always ignored, and those who are always spoken badly about behind their back. But when I started learning the truth about the truth, I couldn't in good conscience be a part of that mess. And so I, although disfellowshipped, wrote a letter dissociating myself because I needed them to know that now I'm choosing not to be a part of that. And I didn't give details because they know perfectly well what the details are. But I wanted to show them that I have my power and I'm taking it back. But
correct.
at the same time, I was kind of left hanging. Okay, so now what?
Sure.
Where to go?
Right. Interesting thing that you mentioned, Carol. So Carol mentioned, everyone that's watching, that when she came out after 25 years, and you can all see here a very wide range of experiences here. You came in when you were 25. Justin came in when he was 11. I was born in. So we have three maybe very different experiences, but yet of the same thing, right? And we all come out with the same pretty much views on it all. Justin, when you came out, what was your status? I mean, were you like, you knew, oh, I woke up, this is, or were you POMI, were you still believing it, or how was that?
so when I woke up, I was at the peak of my JW career, I guess you could say. So I was a ministerial servant working my way up to be an elder. I had literally just given my first public talk about a month or two before waking up. So I was not planning on leaving. I was in fact, the year prior to waking up, I was probably being my happiest year as a witness. So, for all those sayings that they talk about of people who leave were weak in it or they weren't really in it. No, 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 no. I was deep in it. I was happy in it. But, things happen. You find out something and then you have to make that choice. And because I was so deep in it and because I was not in a decline, um, I did have to go through a very long period of questioning. It was about 7, 8 months worth of back and forth, back and forth. I was
Yeah,
PMO during that time while being a ministerial servant PMO, and I mean, I really it's because they make that your comfort zone, and the idea of leaving is so scary that you would rather just
yeah,
stay in your comfort zone. Sometimes believing in the lie is easier than accepting the truth. So, but
absolutely.
that's where I was. Yeah, PMO for 7 months. So anybody out there who's PMO, I get it. It's a hard
Yeah.
position to be in. Very hard.
And what was it, Justin? What was it that got you on that journey? Because it's amazing, and actually, this is a really good experience for everybody that's listening right now. Because here you got somebody that was totally, you were gung ho, you were, at your peak, a young man,
Hmm.
just gave a public talk, which is a huge. I
Oh
think
yeah.
both of us. I remember when I did that as well, right? That's a huge time, right? Like people are congratulating you and oh, you're on your way, right? You're a young
Hmm.
man, you're
Hmm.
on your way. The sisters be looking at you, I
Yep.
mean, you got the whole like this guy's got his shit together, right? I mean, this guy is
Yeah.
going on his way. So
Yep.
what was it that made you like that straw that broke the camel's back? What was it?
The main thing was really the CSA issue. I woke up around the time that the Australian Royal Commission, those reports are coming out publicly, and just watching that, and on one side being told this is the truth, we are God's chosen people, we are the ones who are, a cut above the rest in terms of our morality and everything. But then seeing how they were handling this big issue and their complete disregard for how the way that they handle that issue can impact children that are outside the organization, not just the children that are inside, the ones that are outside. They had no regard for that at all. And just seeing that, that was what allowed me to begin to question things. That's really the big thing, is getting to that point where you are allowed to start saying why this, why that, and then it all falls down from there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very interesting. And Carol, what was it for you?
Um, the first couple of things I learned was their 1947 stance on excommunication, and then 5 years later adopting it and weaponizing it more so. And then on the heels of that was their 10-year-long membership as an NGO member of the UN. And this is after hearing about the CSA, but I had put up my wall with that. I wasn't going to hear it. But once I heard those, then I was willing, like Justin said, to say, well, let me readdress this and look into it. And that's when I discovered the skeletons in their closet. Oh my goodness. And I was horrified. And just like Justin, that the attitude they had about children outside of the organization, well, it's not our job to protect every child in Australia. That made my stomach turn. And I was done. I just couldn't anymore at that point.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah. And that's, in each case, there's different things that can do it for you. I think in my case, it was kind of the same because I didn't find out about because when I left the organization, I hadn't seen any YouTube or anything like that at that time. That came about 3 years later. So I had no idea about the CSA. No idea. I found out about that around, I left in 2014. And then, I didn't actually find YouTube around 2017, right around there, 16, 17. And then I started finding out all this other stuff. But definitely there were some doctrinal things. The involvement with the UN was a big one. That was a shocker for me because a part of our growing up was the 2 times that we studied the Revelation book was just that was so ingrained into us, and everything about the UN, the governments, and just absolutely tearing them apart, right? In every sense. This is the beast. This is, basically a representation of Satan. And here we are years later. And during that whole time, during the 90s, which was when we studied the book, right? Here we've come to find out we're a part of it all along. We were members. And not just, they can play it off all they want, but when you read the contract for that, it's not just, oh, we're just giving you access to a library. No, you have to be involved with the UN. You have to agree with their, ideas, their ideology. You have to contribute to them monetarily in other ways as well. And so that means that, Watchtower had to say, yes, oh yeah, we're in agreement with you. We support you. So there's no two ways around that. And you sit here and you go, wait a minute, what about all this loyalty to Jehovah? And people go to prison instead of doing something like that, giving loyalty to somebody else. So that was a big thing. And of course, CSA, obviously, should be for anybody, regardless. That should be a deal breaker immediately. What could be more important than that? We've been mishandling, these types of cases for decades and decades. And after so much criticism of the Catholic Church, and then here in the end, we've done, at least at the very least, now for the past few years at least, when Pope Francis came in, they've been dealing with it at least in some level. They're dealing with it. And they put it out there, and they're not hiding it. So it's like, hey, you should be using the Catholic Church as a role model. I mean, look at them. Instead of just I mean, giving it to them. I mean, look at them and go, hey, you know what? Hey, it is what it is. I mean, they made those mistakes in the past. Now there's a new leadership, and they were like, no, we're putting this out there. We're not going to put up with it. And so it's like, okay, hey, I can handle that. I understand that. I mean, I understand that this stuff happens. I mean, the Catholic Church's been around for a gazillion years, and these things happen. It's a power that's been on earth for since ancient times, and but now you see things changing. At least you go, okay, I respect that. They're making changes. They're trying to do things better. Okay, I can at least handle that. So yeah, so we got a lot of comments here. Welcome everybody. I just want to mention first of all, and I totally forgot to go to the comments. Welcome everyone who's in the comments. I appreciate you all being here. So hold on, because this StreamYard now is forcing me to share these links now. You get people signed up, as I can't. It won't let me do any comments until I do it. So it's like, come on. So welcome everyone, Lisa. Welcome Jeff. Welcome in. Appreciate you being here as always. Jay, John, TM. Del Real Love, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. So let's get into our main topic here, and so Justin. So now, well, first of all, how long have you been out total now?
Oh, let's see. It's been about 5, 6 years. It was kind of an
Okay.
odd thing getting out because I left meetings. Stopped going to meetings and everything, but I was still working for a witness-owned company where 90% of the people working there, including the owner, my boss, his boss, the whole hierarchy, were all witnesses. So even though I was out, there were still 2 years or so there where I had to still kind of pretend like I was in it, and that kind of stops you from making any real progress, because you still got ties to them. But since that, yeah, it's been about 5 years, 5, 6 years.
Okay. So right now, what's been? We can get into a little bit what your journey has been like now. Where are you at faith wise? No faith, atheist, or are you looking for some other, trying to find Jesus? What's your journey right now?
Oh man, that's a big question.
All
um,
over the place, huh? Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, like you mentioned before we started the show, this is something that a lot of people leaving that organization struggle with. And I can fully sympathize with people out there who leave and they say, these guys fooled me. I'm not ever getting fooled again. I don't want nothing to do with anything. And they go very hard atheist. And for a little bit of time there, I was leaning towards that direction. Just because, not so much based off my own beliefs, but more so based off you're coming out of the witnesses. You're used to being in an organization where everybody believes the same thing. And so as I was going through the process of getting out, I'm watching a lot of YouTube videos, I'm hanging around the XJW Reddit and other groups. And since there's a lot of people in those spaces that are very vocally atheist, it was like, okay, well, that's just the next that's the next thing, right? But in the back of my mind, there's always been things that have happened that show me that there is something that's off the chessboard, so to speak. And even in science, science is so focused on the physical, what we can measure, what we can see, what we can determine as for fact answers, or at the very least, create theories based off of the things that we think that we know. But that still leaves a very wide open space for things that we don't know. Things that are, I mean, oh man, yeah, this is a big question. I'm
Yeah.
not quite sure where to go, right? Let's see. Um, I mean, if you think about how the universe actually works, we live in a three-dimensional reality. We have the x-axis, the y-axis, the z-axis. You can go up and down, left and right, in and out, or some combination of those. You can never go outside of those three axes of direction. But yet we know actually from science that there is a multiple levels, multiple dimensions of reality. In quantum physics, string theory, they say we would need 11 dimensions of reality in order to have our third dimension of what we know as real. So
Right.
if there's something above real, right? Even in science, they're saying that that means that you at some point you're talking about things that would naturally be non-physical by nature, right? If we have a physical reality and our physical reality is getting uh influenced in ways. In fact, there's one theory going around that even gravity itself is some function of a higher dimension that causes the influence in our dimension as what we know as gravity. So if those things are happening, and then of course you have all the studies going into what consciousness is, where that's coming from. You have that thing with what's it called? The telepathy tapes. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that, but very recently, telepathy tapes is where this is studied by scientists, where you have children who are very low functioning on the autism spectrum, to the point that they are nonverbal, and yet they are able to see repeatedly with 99% accuracy, where these children are basically able to have a communication without speaking with their parents, with their teachers, with anybody who's able to get close to them. So if you take into account all these things, and I can go on and on and on, but if you take into account all these things, there's definitely something. There's something above this layer. And the more I dug deep into that, the more the atheism and the pure science perspective just wasn't going to do it for me. And so where I'm at now, I would say I'm an explorer. I'm an explorer. I again, these are huge questions. What is beyond this level of reality? The God questions is a small thing compared to what is reality itself. You can answer the God question by going through that door.
Yeah.
We're worried about personalities. We should be worrying about what is this? What is this?
What is it all?
So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So if you start asking those questions, then you will naturally find that you need to explore. You naturally find that this is a elephant-sized question, and like that old tale where you have those blind men, and each of them are at a different angle of the elephant, and one of them is feeling the trunk of the elephant, and he's saying this creature must be a snake, and one of them is feeling the tusk, and
Yeah.
he's saying, well, this feels like a bull, so it must be that. And what these organized, high control religious groups are doing is they are telling you, you listen to this blind man who's saying that this thing
That
is a snake. Don't listen to
that's
anybody
right.
else. And number one thing, don't you ever even think about going and touching that elephant for yourself. And so
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing right now as an explorer. I'm going and touching that elephant for myself from every angle, every perspective. As a human being, I know and humbly accept that I will never know the totality of the truth of what this is. But I have a thirst for knowledge that I'd never had as a witness. I mean,
Yes.
it can never be quenched. That has come from leaving the witnesses, and yeah, so that's where I'm in today, an explorer.
Very
There is
interesting.
no label on
Very
it. There's
good
no
point.
religion. There's no box. It's just an explorer.
That I think right there is the quote of the year. The religious leaders want to tell you, listen to this blind man. That is genius.
Hmm.
That is genius because in the end, we know that us as really when you look at that particular story, which I've always loved that story. You know, when you're reading that story, you get to have the position of like God. You're basically in God's position because you see the big picture. You see what they can't see, right? That they're looking at, and they're all touching things, and they're drawing conclusions about the same thing, yet they're all totally different. That is absolutely genius. Carol, where are you right now, Carol?
Very similar to Justin, a little less on the science side, but I would call myself a seeker. I've been researching a lot of the Gnostic beliefs, the Nag Hammadi library, other older writings, and getting perspectives regarding the Christians prior to the fourth century. And The reasons why the Gnostics were hunted down and slaughtered, and why the books were burned, tried to be destroyed, had to be buried, and then they were found in I think the 40s. And when you begin reading those books, you realize, oh my goodness, we cannot have a populace that has this knowledge, because then we will lose our power. And so it carries a lot of weight for validity for that reason alone, because we know how religions want to control. And so if humans realize who they really are, their power, then the control disappears. And the control is really only a construct based on conning you out of your power, basically, is what that has become. So I'm a spiritual type of person, but I'll tell you what, I've had several people, whether they know it or they don't know it, some do know, that have helped me through this journey I'm on. Serenity is one of them. Gordon Smith Duran, he is a former witness, although he doesn't speak about Jehovah's Witnesses too much on his channel, which is uh, I can't remember what it's called. Let me look at it.
I know you sent it to me too, but I can't
Yeah,
look at it right now. Yeah.
his channel is oh goodness, Peaceful Rebellion. His channel, and of course,
Mhm.
Serenity, her channel is Infinite Light. And Daniel
Mhm.
Torridon, a lot of the things that he's coming to learn through his research are very similar, and people have been familiar with him, many of them. But then uh, Jonathan Ledger, he and his wife Beth each have their own channels, but John created a new channel because of his spiritual journey. And a lot of people are traumatized. They had that religious trauma syndrome and they don't want to hear it. And so, out of love and respect for those ones, he has created a channel for just those sorts of things, for his spiritual journey, to share what he's been learning.
Mhm.
Which has been really helpful. I disagree with a lot of what he believes, which is great because that's what I want to hear. I want to hear things that challenge what I currently believe at this moment. And it's always evolving. Tomorrow, I'm going to believe a little differently than I do today. And I love that. I love that I don't have the burden. And make no mistake, it's a burden to have the truth, to have all the answers, to know you're right. That's ridiculous. So the learning and the freedom to learn and challenge myself and to know I'm not right, but I'm being true to me right now. It's a beautiful thing, and it has given me a great deal of peace.
Absolutely, very interesting. Yeah, and that's I think a lot of what all of this has to do with is a common thread that I'm hearing here with everybody is that it's about searching, it's about exploring, and definitely staying away from the absolutes, right? And that's what I just mentioned on my last video. Although I'm a little bit more inclined towards the Christian faith, but still, I told my viewers that if you're going through this situation right now, as an ex-witness, especially if you're recently out, you need to get away from this absolute truth idea and start opening your mind to distinct possibilities and all these things, dimensions, and you kind of need to go that way of Pontius Pilate, the skeptic. What is truth? And you know what? That always, even when I was a witness, that was kind of my guilty pleasure because that always kind of resonated with me when we would read that. They would say, "Oh, look at how skeptical Pilate was because he was a Roman." And I was like, "Yeah, but he kind of made sense, though. I mean, you can't blame the guy from where he was coming from when he asked Jesus, and Jesus didn't answer him. He didn't say anything. It was kind of like, oh, dang, you got a point there. Like, what is truth? I mean, with
Mhm.
human beings, it's easy if you're talking about a divine standpoint, but what is truth, right? What is that? Because that's different for each person. But definitely the scientific aspect of it is interesting. That Justin was mentioning with all these different axes that we have, and we have the physical ones that we can move within. However, within that cross, right? You have all these different angles and things that we don't understand, that we know it's there, right? But what is it? Now they're coming up with this black matter, and there's all this stuff, and now they're, like Justin mentioned, they're trying to redefine. Now all of a sudden we're not sure what gravity is anymore. Is this a force? Is it an energy? Is it light too? And all this stuff, and everything is constantly in this flowing. It's all liquid and it's all fluid, and all of a sudden now they're finding stuff, these new telescopes, as they get them out there, all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense anymore. We got this new telescope, we can see something now. What is this? Where did this come from? Where did so I think the same thing really with religions, because I definitely, when I was on this path of coming out, because I saw people who, and I had experiences with people who are not witnesses, and yet they showed all of the qualities that we were supposed to be showing. This, as they always would say, I don't want to give anyone trauma here with these lingo, but the mind of Christ and all this stuff, and showing his personality, the Christ-like personality. And it's like, why am I never seeing that with the witnesses? I never see that. And yet people who are not witnesses are the ones being kind. They're helping me. They're doing all this stuff. And I came to this conclusion that these people must have salvation too, because they're doing what God's telling them, even though. And so, I just recently, here where I live, where I work, the owners of the place that I work at, they just had their 50th wedding anniversary, and they're Americans, and but they're of the Baha'i faith. The Baha'i faith, which is Arab based. It's in Palestine now, or in Israel, I think it is their main headquarters. Um, And I'm not into. They're always inviting us to stuff, but it's like, nah, I'm good. I'm good, thank you. But I look at the religion, it's very, very heavy on the religion stuff. There's lots of rules. There's lots of. But I look at the people and I go, man, how can I deny that these people are blessed? They came here to this country, to Honduras, back in the 80s, like 1980, with absolutely nothing. They sold everything. They moved down here, and so they built up this school, this bilingual school, this private school, over the past 37, 38 years, from nothing, and have been people that they've shaped their community. They help people. They do charity. They help families. And you will never hear one word about it. They're not in the news. They're not blowing a trumpet about it. They never talk about religion with anybody. There's no debating, there's no evangelizing, no preaching. They're just, you live your life, you be a good person, and you shut up about it. You be quiet about it. And you look at it and you go, who's gonna deny that these people have been blessed by God, or whatever God you want to say that it is? So I think that reminded me of what Justin was mentioning about the elephant, right? So it might be their God, Abdullah, Baha'i, whatever, whoever he is. It might be Jesus. It might be Allah. It might be Buddha. It might be. Are we just all touching the same God and giving it different names, and it's all the same thing? That's kind of what I've seen that with. We're all trying to kind of follow the same thing, basically, right? We want to be good people. We want to help others. We want to, have a spiritual life and live a good life, be virtuous, be moral, and we're all fighting about what name we're giving to the elephant, right? Because some people want to say it's the snake, others want to say it's a bull, and so even though I'm comfortable with my faith that I have now, but I'm never absolute about that. Like, this is the faith, this is it. You cannot have anything else. I will not accept. No, because I'm watching things as well. I'm still searching. I'm still looking at things, and if I see things and something changes my mind, I'm going to change. That's what I learned from the Watchtower. That's what that taught me. I cannot sit here and blindly defend something and insist on something when I have facts right before my eyes. And that's like a lot of the people that come on the channel sometimes, and they these active witnesses, but they have false profiles and everything, never have a picture. And you put something right before them and it's like, well, what about this? What about this though? What do you think about this? And right away they roll right over it and they just go to the next point. They won't even consider it. And it's like, wow. I mean, even when I was a fully indoctrinated witness, I was never that way. If someone put someone out there, I would look at it. I'd be like, oh, what's this? Okay, well, I'll check it out. I'm going to look at it. And if it made sense, I would be like, what? Okay. Oh, my goodness. But there's all these people out there that for some reason, I guess it happens with politics, it happens with lots of things, not just religion, where it doesn't matter what you tell them, what you put before them, they'll just, no, well, I don't care. They'll just, like my Pomey dad, it just, even if they're wrong, I'll still believe it, and it's like, why? Somebody explain that to me. I mean, I don't know. It's
That's a religious man. That's what it is.
right, exactly, right.
There is a
So,
there's definitely sorry, I didn't mean
no,
to
go
cut off
ahead,
your
go
point there.
ahead.
I will say that there's definitely a difference between a religious man and a spiritual man. Um, I can tell you a quick story here if you got the time. And apologies in
Absolutely,
advance to my audience because you're probably going to hear this one again. Um, but if you imagine a person, right, who their mother is addicted to hard drugs, right, while she's pregnant. That means that when this person is born, not only are they already addicted to drugs, but most likely they have some sort of learning disability or things that go along with that. So right off the bat, they're starting life on hard mode, extra hard mode. Okay.
yeah,
Now, this person expectedly goes on in life. They don't do too well for themselves. End up, of course, addicted, end up homeless. Now, let's say along the way, a kind stranger, when they're begging for money, they offer them $1, but they also give them a Bible. And let's say that this person goes off and they read the Bible themselves and they are so inspired by what they read that they go ahead and change their life, completely turn around their life. All right. Now, this man then goes off and tells some of his friends that are in that same sort of predicament, and they change their life as well. And so now you got a line of homeless people walking around with their Bibles. Now, here's a preacher rolling around in his Benz. He sees them off in the corner and he kind of chuckles to himself, look at these guys. All right. Now they keep going. He keeps telling more and more people, you have so many people changing their lives around. They keep reading through the Bible, they get inspired by the story of baptism. Hey, there's a lake of water there. They decide that they're gonna go and just baptize each other. All right. Not a single one of them is an actual preacher. Not a single one of them is a pastor. Not a single one of them has done any true, you know, Bible training from accredited school or some religion, but they read it and they know it and they feel it, and so they want to baptize each other. And they're not doing it for other people. They're doing it because they recognize the symbology of it and the
yeah,
dedication for themselves. And so, let's say years and years pass by and more people turn their life around from this one guy who read the Bible, right? And was inspired by it. And so now this guy has turned his life around so much that he is in a house. And he bought
yeah.
this house with his own money, worked hard for it. So excited for it that he moved in on a Thursday. Then on a Saturday, knock, knock, knock. Jehovah's Witness or whatever religion that believes that they're the truth, there's plenty of them that believe that they have the truth. Knock on his door. Hey, sir, would you like to hear about our Lord and Savior? Whatever. And he says, thank you very much for coming here, but I have my own faith. And so those people walk off thinking, man, that guy missed his chance.
Yeah,
Now, listen to that story, and you can tell the difference between a religious man and a spiritual man. Doesn't matter if it's the Bible,
definitely.
the Quran, the whatever the Buddhist book had, doesn't matter. This man turned his life around. He found faith in something,
That's
inspired
right.
others to turn their life around. And it's the religious people that are saying, you missed your chance.
That's right. That's right.
Religion boosts the ego in us. Spirituality brings out our better self. The binary thinking, the right and wrong, black and white, this or that, there's no in between. I've seen it. It's really sad to see with the XJW community. Unfortunately, the wiring is still there. part of how I got to where I am now, and I'm still picking out all the weeds, is this black and white thinking. And so, okay, now their black and white thinking isn't Jehovah's Witnesses is the truth, everybody else is wrong. Now it's this political party is right and that one is wrong, and I can't be friends with anybody who is of this persuasion politically, or whatever the genre may be. It's my opinion is right, everybody else is wrong. That needs to go. That just and it's
Yeah.
not exclusive to former JWs or current JWs.
Yeah.
It is across the board. I've noticed in the
Everybody.
populace. It's
Yeah.
terrible. But all that does is divide people, and it prevents people from loving like we as human beings were designed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's true what Mr. D says here on the screen, that not an endorsement, but just in the description sounds like the way International Bible Students started before Rutherford took over. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right on the money. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and you see
Justin's on
what
fire today with that.
organization does to it. Money gets involved,
Yeah.
and the corporations get involved, and now we're
Yeah.
off of
Well,
what the
and
original path was,
Off
was
the
just
right.
rail.
And what you,
people
yeah,
that thought they found something, and they just wanted to share it. Whether it was right
yeah,
or
and what
wrong, that
Carol,
was the original intention.
right, what Carol mentioned about the ego, of course, absolutely, because every single religion that started, okay, especially since from the time that Martin Luther broke off from the Catholic Church, from that moment on, even with the Catholic Church too, because there were men involved with that, but it's more notable with the Protestant religions. Every single religion that branched off from there has been started by a man. So you start right from there. Your church begins with an ego, with one person who says, I think I have a better understanding. I want to have my own power. I don't want to be under the thumb of this guy or this church. And so when you're a religious man, like for example, a Jehovah's Witness or whatever you are, Baptist or the Mormon, or you are doing the will of other men because they want to have power. That's why the people that went to the door of the homeless guy who turned his life around say, "Oh man, he messed it up. Oh, he's dying in Armageddon," like we would say when we went to the door, right? Oh, that guy's going to get a hailstone, and instead of walking away and going, "Man, I'm really glad that that guy found his salvation or God or whatever, turned his life around." If you see that, obviously something worked for that person, right? Something worked for him, and he was able to do all of that. I don't think all that would happen. Like the witnesses would explain all of that by saying the infamous, "Oh well, that's blessings from Satan." That's what they would say. Don't get confused by, dude. Come on, people don't get blessed like that from Satan by doing all that. Satan will never bless you. The kind of, like, I guess for lack of a better word, if you say that, you see this happen. But when people go after materialism, you see that happen in music stars, actors, where they just rise to fame, get all this recognition, and then they die. They have an overdose. That's what Satan does. Okay, that's what he does. You do this, but it's like, but you're going to give me something back. You're going to get all your fame. You're going to get all your. But right when you get to your maximum level, I'm going to come calling for you. And we've seen that a lot of time, like with the club of the 27, all those artists that died when they were Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and all these people. So it's interesting how there's that need because of the ego. There's that need of exclusivity, that you have to belong to us and you need to follow what we do and everyone else is wrong. And a great point that Carol brought out is this is not just religion. It's everybody. It's everybody. And I would say particularly, and unfortunately, I think we have to admit this, that it's a particular, I don't know if it comes from the old, like the Puritans and all this stuff that made up our country in the beginning, but the practice of shunning really on this level seems to be particularly an American thing, because you see people who are never witnesses, but they're doing exactly what we did because of politics. Because people are all divided about politics right now. There are families that will not talk to each other. They've cut each other off. either because they're on this side or they're on that side or whatever. And it's like, wow, it's like, why is that practice so ingrained into our culture, right? About if you're not doing what I like, then we can't be friends anymore. I'm going to cut you off forever. It's pretty radical.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that would be something that I would definitely suggest for people that are leaving is when you go and you're building your new community of friends, get people with different perspectives. Don't just hang around people that look at the world the same way that you do. Get people that have different political views, different spiritual views. I mean, to me, it sounds boring to be around a bunch of yes men that want to that just think the same way you do. Yeah, be around people that disagree with you, and learn how to have disagreements in a healthy way. And then just from that, you're going to grow so much. You're going to expose yourself to so many different perspectives and grow from that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is very true. And you got to do it. You have to force yourself to do that. And that's why I mentioned on the last video that I did about this, about, finding your new faith and everything. And probably one of the hardest things to do as an ex-witness is putting your own ego aside, because all of us had that ego that we knew, oh, we're the true religion. Our Bible is the pure translation. And then having to go back and basically be like a child and say, okay, number one, and I know some people kind of, they didn't really agree with me, but I was like, I think they misunderstood what I was trying to say about, you have to admit to yourself that as an ex Jehovah's Witness, get this idea out of your head that you know everything, because you know nothing. You know nothing about the Bible. You know nothing about, I'm not saying that really, literally, we don't know anything, because obviously we have lots of head knowledge. We had lots of head knowledge academically about the Bible. We studied the books of the Bible and some of the history and what they wore and their customs and things like that. But yet it's totally, totally devoid of any spirituality or Holy
Yes.
Spirit or anything like that. If you're a Christian, I mean, you need to have that in order to look beyond and understand some things in there. So you have to be able to be humble and go, you know what? And that's why I tell people when they come on my channel, these witnesses, and they start making comments, and it's, oh, you obviously didn't study the Bible, I can tell. And it's like, where is your reference from? What are you basing that off of? Because all you ever knew, everything you know about the Bible, you learned from Watchtower. So how do you know that you know anything, right? Because I mean, I can imagine, like in most of our cases, and I would say most Americans, it's like, come on, don't tell me, like, if you got converted to the witnesses, like let's say in Carol's case that you were 25, right? I mean, most Americans, don't try to tell me that before that you were out there all studying the Bible every day and reading the Bible, and come on, you weren't, until you became a witness, and then all of a sudden it was like, read your Bible. But what happened? We read the Bible, but then all of the interpretations we got, all of the information came from Watchtower literature, right? This is
Mm.
what this means, and what we heard at the meetings and the assemblies and all of that. So it's like right from there, you're erroneous, because all you're based on, what you're saying is what you learned from them. So you have to get outside of that and start looking at what other religions teach, and whether you agree with it or not, it doesn't matter. Look at what they teach. Look at what their point of view is. Start studying those things, and then start studying the non-Christian religions. Get out there and look at the other ones that are more spiritual. Look at what do they worship over in Japan? What are the Chinese? What are the Orthodox churches? Look at all of those, because you know what? You don't know at what point you might see something and go, wait a minute, this makes sense. Okay, this is what I'm
Mhm.
hearing here. I never knew that. I thought this was, all we ever knew was, we probably all studied the, like, Mankind Search for God book, and well, that just blew everything out of the water, right? Just basically every other religion is just lost and totally wrong, and there's, in all of this. And so, we definitely, if you're a witness, you are completely biased, completely, right, on every sense. So I just tell people, like, man, you gotta get out of all of that, and then you have to be humble enough to say, you know what, I really don't know anything. I need to go back, and I'll be able to just kind of, like you guys are saying, just shut up, okay, and let yourself be taught. Go out there and start learning for yourself. Start doing your own research, and don't judge anything. Stop judging everything, right? Just learn it for the sake of having knowledge, and look at what things you can use. what things make sense to you, what things don't. Because you know what, for me, in the end, it all comes down to how you feel. That's it. It's just, does this make sense to me? Do I feel okay with this? Does it, is this something that, yeah, okay, this makes sense? Or if not, all right, well, I don't think really, but it's good to know at least, about those things. So it's, there's got to be I think on a personal level, you have to have a lot of, like I said, that childlike kind of just curiosity, passion about, I want to learn about things. How does this work? Why is this here? And not for anything else, just for the sake of learning. That's it, with no judgment.
And that's how you develop your beliefs. If you join a religion, you are adopting somebody else's beliefs. You are not unique. You are a drone for that religion. Develop your own beliefs. And you do that by building from the things that you learn, picking what resonates for you, what is true for you. And everybody, like was mentioned before, I'm not sure who said it, our beliefs should be as unique as we are as individuals, based on our personal experiences, based on our genetic makeup, based on our studies, the things that we learned, experiences, whatever. Everybody, their beliefs may overlap some here and there with others, but generally, each person's belief should be like a fingerprint for that person.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what do you guys think about? So Carol mentioned something. I want to touch on this. I'm gonna go out on the limb here, and I'll be the heretic here and be the one that talks about this, because sometimes, like, when we're ex-witnesses, we don't want to ever, because we have that same, like you said, Carol, that tendency. Those old customs are still there a lot of times, and we don't want to admit anything about, like, okay, this community, and things like that. And I think it's good to talk about it and get it out there so that we don't commit the same mistakes again. We don't make the same mistakes. We got to talk about it, and we got to admit that, okay, well, even if I come off that way, or if I do that, I need to improve. I need to, get that. Even after years, you still have that in you, that we got indoctrinated with. So, what do you guys think about some of those tendencies, and what maybe keeps the XJW community a little bit fragmented and divided?
Well, that's a good question. You wanna go, Carol?
I think it varies by the person, but our human makeup, we have an ego, and the ego serves a useful purpose. However, it can sometimes override common sense and our higher self, our better selves. And I wouldn't even say better. Because you don't want to down anything about yourself. We are beautiful, unique thing. Even our dark side, we need to embrace and be grateful for that too, because it helps us to learn. But ego is a big part. It wants to, it wants to hold on to things. It wants to be right. It wants to, I told you so, and it wants to win the argument. And there's that. And then there's the shame of maybe having been deceived, which also feeds into the ego a little bit. And that was a big one for me. I find, I always believed I was somewhat intelligent, and I am. A lot more people way smarter than me, I've discovered. And how intelligent am I? I know that I know nothing. So there you go. That's what I've learned. But it's hard to admit that you were schnookered. You know, it
Yeah.
really is. And so you believe something, and now your whole identity, because that's what we did as JWs, right, is now in this one little basket. And we can't let any harm come to that one little basket, because then we're going to feel lost again. And the thing is, if you let the basket go, you're going to fly. And what freedom is that? That is incredible. That's just me. That's just my thought. I mean, like I say, every person, they have their own little issues, what makes them, like real stubbornly want to hold on to something, and somebody else has a different reason for it. But I think those are the main ones.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
fully agree. I think the only thing I would add is kind of what I was saying before, that we're coming from an organization where everybody was required to believe the same thing. They called it unity, but really it's conformity. And when you are so ingrained in being in that type of social structure, then you come to the outside. There's some people that expect the outside world to still be that way, and they themselves want to behave in that way. um and I think that's where a lot of the turbulence sometimes comes from, is that people are going to have different views, people are going to have different perspectives, and that doesn't make them a bad person. That doesn't make them a stupid person. That's, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so you don't need to put people in a box. You don't have to put yourself in a box. It's Yeah.
And do we
Absolutely. And
learn
I think,
more when we're right, or do we learn more when we were wrong?
Hmm.
You know?
absolutely.
So being wrong is a good thing. It helps you to learn and do better and grow.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that I've gone through right now with, I had a video a little bit a while ago where I explained, because I felt that I needed to let my viewers know, because a lot of them have been with me for quite a while, and they went through most of my years where I was very atheist, and I was very vocal about it, and um, angry and hurt. It was just, a lot of it came out of hurt and resentment from just what you said, Carol, being fooled, being lied to. And and Justin, you mentioned it too, like, not, I don't want to know anything about this, don't talk to me about religion. Okay. But when I started coming back into my faith again, and I wanted to share that with my viewers and just say, hey, this was, that how I was before. And not that I'm not apologizing for it, but I just want everyone to understand that that was never me, right? That was all that, like, just ranting and swearing, and that came out of a place of what I was feeling because of my experiences as a witness. And but I was never like that. I never wanted to be that way. And I always kind of had in my inside, like, a deep inside of me, I always knew that there was another, like, a higher power, a God, something that, and I needed to come back to that, because all it was doing was hurting me. It was affecting me. It wasn't, it's the governing body doesn't care. They're not, it's not affecting everybody else. It's affecting my life. It's making me negative and doing that. I don't want to be that way.
That was your
But
recovery process, though.
yeah,
And
right.
I noticed long before you came with that video that you had made that change. It was
I was
very
struggling.
apparent to me.
Yeah, I had an internal struggle going on. That was, it was, I know, I probably, if you're tuned into that, like you are, people that are tuned in, you can see that, like, I didn't come out and say it, but there were indications of it. But I was kind of like, I was actually really scared. I was afraid of, like, oh my God, how am I gonna say this to everybody? Like, how do I, because they're gonna be like, what? Oh, you're Christian now? Oh, what about all the? Because I mean, I would really went at it for a long time, and I had, with this channel, I had a whole nother channel. I mean, the same one, but just videos. And then I kind of burned out. I erased everything, and I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And then with some of the things that were happening with my daughter, I came back and started from zero again. But one thing I've never done, though, and I won't ever do, is that, because sometimes my wife was like, "Oh, you need to start, because you have that audience, and start preaching and start talking about the Bible and bring them to Jesus." And I said, "Well, no, because it's just it's not that that's bad or anything, but as ex witnesses, like, with these channels, the purpose isn't for that. Okay, I'm not here to be pushing that on people, like telling them that you need to turn to Jesus and you need to do this and you need to do that. No, it's helping people mainly to see what what is wrong with the organization. Okay, what is wrong with the Watchtower organization? Why we're being lied to? Why we need to wake up and do critical thinking and do all that stuff? And of course, I can talk about general things like, hey, you need to be open to. I think you need to be open to faith. You need to be open to finding something else. Don't ruin everything else and blame everybody else because of your experience with the witnesses. That's not fair, right? I understand that we all go through that stage where you don't want to know about anything. You're done with it all, but even with Christianity, I say, don't just completely throw God in the garbage can because of what you learned from the witnesses. Okay, give it a chance, and it might not be for you, but at least give it a chance, right? Visit some places, research some things, and that's as far as I will go with that. I'm not going to go on there and, oh, I want to start my CO visit today with a prayer, and that. No, I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not going to be, we're not going to turn this into a worship channel or things like that. And it's just, I told her, I said that, that I would have to, I could do that certainly, but I would, if I did that, I would open up a totally different channel, different name, and go from there. I'm not going to jump off of this platform and then use these people and say, oh, now that I've got all these followers, I'm gonna start preaching. Most of them will leave anyway. So, but I see that with, like we're talking about here, like with our community, right? I see that with a lot of some other channels, where it's like, okay, we're talking about Watchtower, but then at the same time, it's like, okay, this one's about, we're going to talk about this in the Bible and why this is, and bashing it and putting it down and doing this and doing that. And it's like, that's not really up to me to do that. If I came to that conclusion myself, if I learned those things for myself, okay. But I'm not going to turn this into now like my own personal preaching thing where I'm going to show you why the Bible is fake and why you shouldn't read it and why your God is Satan and all. There's all kinds of thoughts out there, and it's like, hey, if you think that that's the truth, if you feel that your research and everything else, okay, but don't push it on people. Just tell them, you know what? I've found out some stuff. I've come to this conclusion, but you need to go out there and do your research. You need, because you know what the tendency is, especially with people that watch our channels, they have a tendency to follow. If you put yourself into the role of, I'm a leader now, all of a sudden you start making this mini little religion with your channel, right? Oh, I'm following this channel. I follow what this guy says because, and I don't want that, right? I don't want that. It's like, stay away from that. Don't go out there. I think it's, what I can tell you guys is, there was a book, really, it's an older book, but it was a psychotherapist, and his name is Sheldon Kopp. If you ever want to read one of these books, Sheldon Kopp, and he had this book that he wrote about. It's called "If You See Buddha on the Road, Kill Him," or "If You Meet Buddha on the Road, Kill Him." Okay, and basically there's a line in there where he talks about this tendency that people have to want to follow somebody, right? Whether it be a priest, whether it be a pastor, whether it be a guru, whether it be a whatever. And he brings that out about how they don't know anything more than you do. They're human beings that are lost as well. And so he gives this example of like people go deep into these woods, into this forest, and they're getting deeper in, and they're getting deeper in, and they're getting more lost and more lost. And then all of a sudden they reach this certain point and they find this guru, sitting there and meditating and and they, oh my God, what are you doing here? And they think he must know something, right? This guy is way deep in the middle of these woods, and the guy's like, you know what? He's like, I can't help you. He said, I can't help you at all. He said, I'm lost too. Now, what I can do is, together, we can go even deeper if you want. We can get even more lost together. Let's do it together, right? But he's like, I'm not here to show you the way out. I'm not here to help you. I got into this point myself. I'm lost too, but hey, I can show you how to get this far. I know about that, right? But all we can do from here is get more into it, get deeper into it. So I think if everybody had that mindset, the world will be a very different place. Like, hey, let's be okay with saying, number one, we don't know. How about that? Let's try that for a change. We don't know, but you know what? Let's keep searching. Let's keep learning and find out more about. Yeah, as we find out more and more, it's kind of like, well, we find out how much we don't know really, but at least, hey, we know this much. That helps us to function right now. We know this about the universe. We know this about physics laws. And if we discover something new, well, then we'll incorporate that, right? So here's a comment. Speaking of my wife, here's my wife. Hola, that's Patty, my wife, PR. So she always checks in on me. Hola, mi amor. So faith equals wishful thinking. Yeah, and okay, that's fine. Yep, and everyone's, we're here to each person has their journey. Each person has their point of view at this moment, right? But I'll just tell you this, okay? Remember that there are no absolutes. That might be right now with whatever it is that we're going on, what we're going through in our lives. Okay, we're gonna have something that works for us at that moment, right? Something that helps us to get through something, and I was that way as well. Okay, so if it helps us right now, and Justin, if it helps you right now, Justin Porter, our good friend from Australia, to say that, hey, well, faith, all that stuff, belief, it's just wishful thinking. It's just okay, yeah, and we're absolutely each person, that's working for you right now. Okay, that's working for you, and you might discover something else. You might come onto something new, and you just got to keep searching. Okay, don't discard faith. Okay, but don't accept it blindly either. Just keep searching. So let me see here. So Jeff always says the only absolute is vodka. Yeah. Well, and those things, whether it be vodka or mushrooms or whatever it is, those can help us to see other dimensions as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and Justin here knows a little about that too.
Oh yeah.
One of these days I'm
Oh,
going to,
really?
but not yet.
Oh, wait a minute here
Oh,
now.
with the
What do you got?
yeah.
You hold note on me here? Do tell, please.
Oh, that was actually a
Enlighten us.
very big part of my healing experience. You leave the
Okay. Well,
witnesses
tell us about that,
so
please. Tell us.
yeah, I left the witnesses so broken. And I was 25, 26 years old. So being that close to 30, I was like, I don't have time to be a broken man. I need something that's gonna fix me as fast as possible. And just through searching and searching and searching, and being fresh out of the witnesses, I was against all that stuff, of course, right?
Right.
But
Sure.
just through searching and searching and doing all this research and seeing the research that they're doing at some of these colleges and hospitals and stuff, and the results that they're getting, it was like, hey, why not try it? So in Canada, they're actually completely legal, and then there's some states where they're decriminalized. So I was able to have an experience, and oh my goodness, it's I mean, it's what I can say for sure is it definitely I'm a completely different person than who I would have been. From the witness perspective, as far as healing from the witnesses, it completely took me out of that angry stage that I was in, that I had no idea how I was going to get out of. So I was able to heal from that. I mean, the healing part of it is just it's off the rails. But then there's also the spiritual aspect of it where has projected me forward in that wanting to be an explorer. There's things that I learned in those experiences that I would later on read in books. Now explain that one. I don't have any
Right.
any knowledge of any of that stuff, and then later on I read it in books. And I mean,
Right.
it's incredible. But I'll tell you what, even if you never try any of that stuff, the one thing that is very interesting about it as it relates to religion, especially the Bible and any ancient book, is that when you read those books, you're reading a a story in which they have this experience with this invisible element, and they don't understand it either. All they're doing is writing about it from their perspective, according to their language, their time, their culture. We're bringing all that into our time, our language, our culture, and trying to understand it. But it's when you have those direct experiences, because when you're reading the Bible and stuff, it's secondhand, right? You're reading experience that somebody else had. But when you have a direct experience, oh my goodness, it just changes everything. And you truly understand that the value in having a direct experience. Because if I was going to explain to you the things that I experienced in those journeys, I wouldn't be able to. There is no language that can explain in any language. There's no words that we have in any language that can explain that. So just by trying to translate those experiences into language, you automatically lose something. And so if I was going to do that and write a whole book about it, give that book to you, you'd be in the same position and where you only have that secondhand experience. And
Mm,
that is why another reason why it's very good to look at multiple perspectives. Try to see this thing from as many different angles as possible because it is the word strange. I mean, I sometimes I tell my friends a UFO could park on my on my front yard, have me go to their planet, take me around, and then bring me back, and that would be less strange than this stuff.
wow.
So it's
Hmm.
it's very incredible, and again, there's just no words. And for me, it definitely showed me that there is something on the other side, and what it is both far more simple than any religion, any belief is making it, but at the same time, far more complex than we could ever understand,
Hmm.
and far more beautiful than. I mean, the word beautiful doesn't even. Yeah, I mean, again, we don't have words for that stuff. We don't have words in any language.
Wow.
But it's incredible. That's about all I can say. It's very incredible, and if
Mm.
you have a chance to try it out legally, you should do it.
Yeah.
My experience wasn't like that because I don't think it's legal in Ohio, but my experience was similar, even though it didn't have that facet to it. And you're right, you cannot put it into words. There's just a knowing that you have. And it's simple and complex at the same time. And only you can really comprehend it. And you can explain yourself till you turn blue. And it's really going to go over the heads of, well, pretty much everybody. Um, the peace that I felt in that moment, in my experience, is something that I had never experienced before. And quite frankly, not to that level since. It just, I can't even describe it. But, and that was without all of that. I can't even imagine what it would be like. But yeah, it got rid of the anger immediately. And not just the anger from having been lied to and deceived, but the anger that I had carried with me my whole life. I had what I called a rage ball inside of me that was always, I was always aware of it. And I always had it in control. And when it showed itself, which was rare, I was still in control. I allowed it to show itself. And then just one day, I happened to notice it wasn't there anymore. And it hasn't been there since. It is gone. And that's how profound my experience was for me. That's something I carried from the moment I could remember at maybe 2.5, 3 years old.
Wow. That's amazing. With both of you, how long was this experience with using that? Was it like one time or a couple of times, or did you do this for years, or how was it?
Oh, I do it. So that one time, I did it once, and then I did it again maybe about a month later, and then didn't touch it again for a couple of years. And then today, I usually do it on my birthday, or around my birthday, just to kind of reset myself and see if there's anything that I
Hmm.
need to shed, or because it's as much as it is very mystical, there's also a deep aspect of it that's very self-reflective, where you're able to see yourself from a different perspective, see the way that you are interacting with others, seeing the way that you're treating yourself. And that part can be really good for growth and just for becoming the best version of yourself that you can be. Because sometimes we get on into autopilot mode, and you sometimes you're moving through the world and you don't really quite know what you're doing. and how you affect people, how you're affecting yourself. But when you're on that, it makes it very obvious, very, very obvious. And just like Hiro said, it's the changes are permanent. It's the weirdest thing. It's just permanent. It's like there's something that just needed to be, one little switch that was off, or needed to be turned up or turned down. Get you right again. And because none of us have perfect lives, none of us have perfect parents. And if you're not careful, you can carry that with you through your entire life, um, just on
Absolutely.
autopilot mode.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just gets rid of it. It's incredible.
Mine was not plant enhanced. Mine was more meditative. Um, and it wasn't even something I was trying to do. It happened in spite of me. It was just the right time for it. I was mentally prepared for the change, for the release of all of the negativity, and for the rise in my vibration. Um, and I try to maintain as high a vibration as I can. I go through my morning listing and always trying to add new things, and trying not to repeat too often the things I'm grateful for, including the bad things, because those are the things that have the most profound beneficial result to your life if you can be grateful for them. I'm grateful that I had been a Jehovah's Witness, because I'm in a position now where I can help those that are in that situation or something similar. I'm grateful that I had an alcoholic parent, because although it was hard when I was very young, it made me who I am. And I love who I am today. So I have to love the person I was then in order to love me today. And in order for me to love anybody else, I have to love all of me, all parts of me at all times that I existed. And so all of this came, it was just like a flood and a rush, almost like Serenity describes it like a download. It might have been just something like a download, but it was very profound, although not plant enhanced.
Wow. Very, very curious. Very interesting. Yeah. That's and the curious part about it is that you're both, even though you can't explain it at all, but you're both talking about similar experiences,
Oh yeah,
similar
there's many
things.
ways to get there.
And
Many
each
Yeah.
ways to get
person
to the
What,
has
same
their own
place.
fingerprint. See,
Hmm.
his and mine are similar. I mean, all fingerprints are similar, but they're very unique.
interesting. The part about the getting rid of anger by doing that is really interesting to me. I'm gonna have to do that sometime, but unfortunately here where I'm living, that's all that stuff is illegal, so it'd be really, really hard to get it. And at the cost of having that liberation, I don't want to be in jail. You
Visit
know,
Dina. Visit Dina in Ecuador. Visit Dina. She has a plant-based healing center. Justin interviewed her a couple of times. She will help you through.
yeah,
Yes.
Yep.
And there's also
interesting.
many
Wow.
ways. There's many ways to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, you got those people that can. I don't know if Kiro, have you read the book "Be Here Now"? You know what that one?
No.
Oh, by Ram Dass. It's an interesting book, but in that book, he tells a story about how he had one of these indulgence, and he wanted to know what it was, right? Because he had such a profound experience, and so he flew all the way to India, found some guru, gave it to him. The guru took like double a dose. He was like, no, no, not that much. And there was no difference, right? He felt no difference because he was already there. So
Yeah.
you can get there through deep meditation. Some people get there through fasting. You can just stumble upon it accidentally. There's all sorts of ways to get to those to that same place, whatever it is. And different sorts of medicines, mushrooms, ayahuasca, I mean, all sorts of different things that get you to the same place. It's very interesting.
Hmm. Very interesting. Put here. So yeah, that's definitely. I can see what Mr. D was saying, that if people take mushrooms and they're not in a good place with themselves, it can reveal things that are they're not ready for.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's
Hmm.
what it's all about. I think everybody, we need to be ready to. I mean, if you're even thinking about going on a journey like that, it's that for me that would be the whole point. It's like let's
Hmm.
let's get this out there and see what am I all about? What's going on? Because you want to get to that truth. You know,
Yes.
you want to get to that revelation and have that understanding about yourself so that you can move on. Which I think happens with a lot of things. It happens with a lot of things. Where you have to, I struggled with alcohol for many years, and I was destructive completely. I mean, on it, and made some horrible mistakes and situations and things, and during that time when I left the organization, and I kind of I was so lost by that whole experience and coming out of it and just having nobody. I was literally by myself. And from going to that to having nothing and then feeling like I had turned my back on God, God discarded me now and I'm just pretty much here to do nothing, just live the rest of my life and then die. And so I was like, you know what? I was like, F it. It's like all this stuff that I never did before, I was just going to jump in with both feet. I said, I made this pact with myself, literally, where I said, if there is a God that we learned about, like Jehovah or whatever he is, whoever he is, I am going to make sure that he doesn't love me anymore, that he hates me. I'm going to sin in every single way possible that I can think of. And I'm going to do it, just for the heck of it, just because I want to experience it. And that's what I did, just for the complete perverse wanting of, oh, they told me that we can't do this. Oh, they told me that I can't commit adultery. I can't have multiple women. I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm just going to do it because I want to know what it's all about. Why can't I do it? And so, you come out of all of that later on. And then I guess, like what you're saying, Justin, where there's many ways of getting to that point where you learn things about yourself. And then you have to look at this and go, you know what? Okay, first of all, I'm a person that I have this trait of being an alcoholic because of also my family. My dad was an alcoholic and most of his family, and we had those traits. And then on my mother's side of the family, we had, genetic disposition to depression and all these things. And many people in my family manifest that. And I struggled with that for a long time, anxiety and, things like that. And so, you go through those mistakes and you go through those situations, but as you do it, you learn specific things to yourself about why did I do this? How did I handle it? What happened? And you have a whole nother understanding of why these things are the way they are by actually doing it. And, but that's one thing that's, I would say is, and I'm certainly not, want to make everything clear to everybody out there. I'm not, endorsing that to anybody to do anything like that. That's a very blockheaded way of, going through those things and experiencing things. And I think it would be much safer to, hey, just take some shrooms and go through this journey and, learn about yourself, and you're not going to hurt anybody. No one's going to get hurt in the process. But yeah, it's, I think one thing we can all agree on is that this whole human experience and our universe and our existence is just very complicated. And I think most of us here probably understand what Justin said about how all these things, about how we're all connected. Everything is connected in a way. The whole universe is intertwined with the energy, with the fact that the elements that are inside of our bodies are the same ones that are in stars, the same ones that are out there in the universe. And it's all so simple, but at the same time, it's extremely complicated at the same time. But I think the part about that is what makes it extremely complicated is how human beings, and probably the fault of religion, organized religion, has made it so complicated that you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to be working for it, you need to prove yourself, you need to, because there's this being out there that expects you to, be worthy and all this stuff. And it's like, no, that's not true, you know. and that's why a lot of people, I think, reject also, like I would say in my faith with Christianity, when you find this concept of grace, which is grace is something that witnesses completely reject because it's just too simple. It's like, oh, you just believe and you're saved. No, 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 you can't do that. No, you got to be working. You got to be, proving yourself. And then even so, if you're doing everything, it's just maybe it's just not enough. You just never know. Only Jehovah knows. And so it's never good enough. You're never completely convinced if you're really worthy, if you're really saved. And that's exhausting.
Yes.
And that's what keeps people, like in the witnesses, that's what keeps them there and keeps them their nose to the grindstone. Oh, don't, they're not worried about, they don't have time to be researching and critically thinking. They're just trying to prove themselves all the time. Because even so, even if you're doing everything that you can do, it's just not quite enough. It might not be enough in the end. You don't know, right? So it keeps you always on that edge of anxiety and guilt and all that stuff, which, like I said in one of my videos, that what does it all come down to in the end? And one thing that a lot of people don't want to admit to themselves, they don't want to admit it because of their ego. You're afraid.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It all comes down to fear, and fear is the primal instinct that human beings know how to manipulate. These other people who are leaders in these organizations and everything, they know how to manipulate fear because of the fact that we are creatures that we need to be in groups, right? We want to be accepted.
Yeah.
And so they use that against us, right? This tribal mentality of, oh, I'm with this group and I get accepted, and that keeps people where they are because we're so afraid of being different, right?
Yeah. And that's a sad existence, to be in fear all the time, regardless of
Yes.
what the fear is
Yes.
of. Um,
Mhm.
and that's why, people say that when we speak out against the organization, we are hating Jehovah's Witnesses. We are not. We were you, and we speak out because we love you and we feel badly because we know that you live 24/7 in fear. That is no existence at all. It's sad. And this is not to be condescending. This, I truly feel the pain because I remember what it felt like being a Jehovah's Witness and living with that fear. And they can say they're not afraid all they like, but why else would you do the things you do? I mean, research the Milgram experiment. Oh my gosh, just to be obedient to who you perceive as an authority, you're willing to kill another human being because they were raising the electrical shock so much it would have, if it had been actually happening the way they were pretending it was, long killed the people, supposedly being electrocuted. Because why? Because they were afraid not to be obedient to that perceived authority. And and it ties into the whole the people's temple. You know, fear is hate is not the opposite of love. Fear is, because fear will lead you to do things that a decent, loving human being, which I believe all people are at their core, would not do normally. It will make fear will make you do the most inhumane things, and to know these people are just living in this pressure cooker of fear is just horrible to imagine anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is very true. Fear is, that's really that's the basic motivator for any creature on this planet. We're all driven by fear. And that's another thing that I think a lot of people struggle with accepting the fact that regardless of what your belief system is, or but if we were created, we're all creation on this planet, and so therefore the only thing that sets us apart is there's different levels of intelligence. That's it. But there's a baseline of behavior that defines every single creature on this planet, whether it be an insect, whether it be a mammal, whether it be a fish, whether it be, we all have instincts to a certain extent, right? Some more than others, and we all have fight or flight, because we react to external stimuli. And so when things come up, we have to react because that keeps us alive, right? That's what, running away, jumping, getting startled, all of those things exist because we're reacting to something we don't know what it is. So until you figure out what it is, your first instinct is that I got to get out of here, right? I need to get away from this thing. And then when I'm far away, I can look at it and go, wait a minute, what is this? Is this all right? Is it safe? Okay, if not, but if you're just standing around like you're, I think probably one of the only ones maybe because well maybe they have instincts but they're slow like the sloths and things like that. You're gonna die, okay? Because you don't get out of there, and there's a saber-toothed tiger. You got to get away from that thing, and so that's a lot of things that people go, oh no, we're not animals, we're not. Yeah, yes we are, but that doesn't mean that we're any less, have a divine nature that we have, because there's a hierarchy of created things and all that, but we act exactly the same way. We have instincts, we have desires, we need to procreate, we need to have a partner, and and all those things, and just like everything else does, so a lot of times that's, I think, and a lot of that comes down to understanding how everything is connected, right? All of the natural world and the universe, and where we come into all of that as creatures with a higher intelligence, but at the same time we are still a part of this ecosystem here on this planet. So very interesting things, and what a conversation today. Who knows, we're just all over the place, and now we're talking about mushrooms, and this is fascinating. So how are we doing? There's no problems here for me, guys. I'm completely wide open and relaxed. I'm on vacation here. So Justin, how are you doing for time? Are you want to continue? Are
Oh,
you okay,
I
or
should probably do
what's
like another 30 minutes or so.
okay? All right, and
Yeah.
Carol, you're okay? We're not
I'm good.
keeping the room. Okay. All right, we'll keep it going here. So I think it's man, all these, like I was telling Carol, all these time zones, it just makes my head swim. So it must be about 2:30 where Justin is. It's 2 o'clock, 2:03,
Yeah.
or 3:03 where I'm in. Must be 5:03 where Carol is. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
So we'll go to about the half hour point, then we'll cut it off there. So all right, guys, take it away. What else do you want to mention? Anything else you want to bring up here? We'll just open up the forum here and let you whatever comes to your mind.
I was
Ooh.
thinking, listen to what the viewers might want to hear about. Is there anybody asking a
Absolutely.
question?
Yeah, well, we got a lot of comments here. A
Okay,
lot of
good.
comments. I was laughing at the people are throwing out their old JW lingo.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Here, like the undeserved kindness. Yep, the old undeserved kindness. That's what took over for grace. Undeserved kindness. And it's like, yeah, it's so much more than that. So much more than just undeserved kindness. That's such an understatement. Let me see here. So yeah, people, any questions that you have in the comment section for Justin or Carol, put them out there. Put your questions out. Let's do a Q&A here. If you want to know anything, if you want to have any any questions there, please ask away. We're open books, I would say. So Justin says we evolved from the ocean. That's why we love walking on the sea and the shore. We get that spiritual feeling. Yeah, and that's probably true. Absolutely. We have those physiological qualities that we're able to breathe liquid for 9 months when we're inside of our mother's womb. So that tells you something about, what's always been fascinating for me is that once we're born, why we lose that capacity. That's kind of interesting. It kind of like shuts off and then that's it. It never, but for a time, that would be something interesting that scientists should look at. What is it that allows us to breathe liquid, and how could we get that back? Because man, what a revolution that would be if we could breathe
Well, it would
water
be helpful
underwater.
in the humid summers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, can you guys imagine? I mean, if we could, because I mean, there's oxygen in the water. How could we, if we could process that in our body again? That would be, I mean, absolutely unreal. I don't know if you guys ever see the movie The Abyss?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
The Abyss with it was a James Cameron film where they're in a drilling rig underneath the ocean.
Yeah. Mhm.
And but basically, there's a scene in there where they got to recover this nuclear warhead, but it's so far down into this trench they can't go there because the pressure. So they give this guy like this liquid oxygen, that fills up his suit, and he's got to start breathing it again. At first, he's like, panicking, and they say, "Oh, your body will remember. Don't worry, it'll remember. You did it for 9 months, And then he starts breathing, and that gave me so much anxiety. I like hate water. I hate water. The thought of drowning, and it's just like, watching that scene is like, it's so realistic. But yeah, that would be something else to be able to, because I mean, if you look at it, we know more about our immediate universe than we do about the oceans. Which is just absolutely flooring. That you know, my dad had the Abyss on Laserdisc. Yeah, that was a classic movie, and especially
Well,
for its
that they
time.
say there is such a thing as mermaids and mermen. Maybe you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Exactly. So I mean, we've only explored like 3% of the oceans, something like that. And so it's just incredible. I mean, how much down there? I mean, there's places we can't go either. I mean, safely, we just can't do it. So it's like, wow, what else could be down there? Who knows? Who knows?
Ooh, I
Another
see it.
mystery.
I see a good question from Jeff. Were there any movies that you watched as a JW that made you go, hmm? I would say for
There we
me,
go.
The Matrix. There's so many things in that movie that even as a witness, even if you don't have a really deep understanding, that it's just something about it that's just, it feels like it's on the money about something. And then the more you learn, you realize that, oh, actually this movie was actually based on some certain things, and certain characters represent certain things, and yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. How about you, Carol? Any movies that ever made you think?
Not really. I'm not a huge movie person. So a lot of people say, well, have you seen this movie? Something that everybody has seen. And I'll be like, no, I haven't. I'm more
Yeah.
sci-fi. Ask me about Star Trek. I can answer pretty much any question.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh, Doctor
now we're
Who, same
talking.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we're talking. Big Trekkie here.
Yep.
Huge, huge, huge. I love Star Trek. Love it, love it, love it.
And Doctor Who
Yeah,
starts again tonight. Woohoo!
Yep. Matrix and
Shooting
the Village. Yeah,
star.
The Village was a good one too. That was a good movie.
The Village hit
Yeah, I
me
don't know if
more
you guys ever
after I left.
remember. There was kind of an obscure movie. I want to say back in the early '90s, not '80s or '90s. I can't remember, but I can't even remember the name. If anybody remembers it, but it was with Kevin Costner, and he was kind of like this, kind of on the fringe, kind of outlaw guy, and he had this kid with him. He took this kid, and they were kind of going around together, and the kid was a Jehovah's Witness. I remember that in the
Oh.
movie, and he mentioned it, and Kevin Costner was just like, "Oh, so you're a Jehovah, huh?" And all this stuff. He's like, "You believe that shit?" And he was just like, it was just like, "Oh my god!" I remember, but it felt so real. Like I had those
Mhm.
experiences like with my uncles and with, you know, and stuff, and it was just like kind of that thing, kind of making you like think about, like you really believe that, you go along with that. Anybody remembers that? I can't. I'll have to look it up. It was Kevin Costner. He was really young. It was like back in the, I think it was even before Dances with Wolves and around that time before that, but something about that. But the kid was a witness. It was kind of interesting. But one that actually, not because it didn't talk anything about this at all, but the movie about Selena Quintanilla, the famous Tex-Mex singer, and she was raised as a witness,
Oh.
and her father Abraham Quintanilla, they're still witnesses. If you ever watched that movie, it was Jennifer Lopez interpreted
Hmm.
Selena, and she was huge. Selena, especially in the Latina culture, her songs, her music, because she made that crossover. She was able to make that crossover, and they just accepted her so much. Selena was just phenomenal. What a beautiful woman. So sad that her life was cut short. She was murdered, unfortunately, when she was, I mean, at her height of her career and everything. But interesting part is how really opened my eyes when I watched that about how her family, her dad, was so ambitious. And so, I mean, even though they were witnesses, but at the same time, he took advantage of her in every way possible to get them famous, because he when he was young, he was in a band, and they were, back like in the 50s, and they kind of fizzled and never went anywhere. So he kind of had that frustration always. And he saw that talent in his daughter, and he just pushed her and pushed her and pushed her, and really against everything that the witnesses were about, right? About not being in the world, not going for fame. And, even to this day, he's used her image and used, all that stuff, and was just really kind of pushed her into those situations that ended up getting her killed,
Hmm.
and it's just amazing. Like, wow, there was so much materialism, so much
Hmm.
ambition, but at the same time, they were living this other life as all going to the Kingdom Hall and all this stuff. So, and it was
Well, the
the late
Williams
actor.
sisters, the same thing with their father and their
Oh yeah.
careers.
Hmm.
Yeah, like Jeff said, the Joe Jackson blueprint, exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And the
Yeah,
actor,
the Jacksons.
speaking of like sci-fi and all that stuff, the late actor, I think he passed away a few years ago. James Olmos.
Hmm.
James Olmos played Selena's father, and just did a phenomenal. Even looks like him, looks just like him, and stuff. And what a sad. But I always remember watching that movie and just thinking, like, why are they doing this? Like, this guy's a witness. Why, same thing like with the Jacksons and the, all of them. Like, why is he pushing her so much? And they were supposed to be, like with being more with as witnesses, preaching and stuff like that. And this guy was just totally going his own way, and nothing ever happened to him. This guy was never disfellowshipped or stuff like that. It's like, wow. But of course, they were making a lot of money though,
Hmm.
so it puts them in that celebrity level,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
very interesting. So yeah, so let me see here. I saw somebody said hi. Let me go back. Oh, sorry, Positively Pepper Jones. Okay, welcome, thanks for being here. Yeah. How about here? I'll throw one out there. What about music? You guys ever have any guilty hidden pleasures when it came to music?
Oh yeah. I grew up in the '90s, so 90s hip hop
Uh,
music, and I'm coming out from outside the religion into it. So yeah, that was definitely one of the things that, yeah, that just. And I think every witness has that, where there's just certain things that you feel like you can never speak to these people that are supposed to be your friends. What kind of friend can you not talk about your interest with? Without fearing that they're gonna go run, because it's such a tattletale culture. So,
yeah,
but yeah, that was definitely definitely a big one for me. Yeah.
Yeah, not music for me. I mean, except that I preferred secular music over the witness stuff,
oh,
But
You don't like
my
classical music?
well, I like anything from Michael Bublé and Andrea Bocelli to Trace Atkins.
yeah,
I love it all. And my very big thing, because I was in choir for just years and years in school, is the a cappella groups,
Mhm.
pentatonics, home free.
yeah,
I can't get enough of that.
yeah. Good
But
stuff. I'm the same way. There's every genre of music. There's something I like.
yeah,
Oh man, love
Yes.
me some Andrea Bocelli. Oh my
yeah,
goodness,
yeah,
phenomenal stuff. Yeah, I was too. At the same time, I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I had a wide variety of things I was exposed to.
yeah.
Because my parents were like old classic rock country, and then my older brothers, I have two older brothers, and they were getting into all that like 80s. They were into the. My brother was the hair bands and Guns N' Roses and
Yeah.
all those the heavy metal groups and the all that. Then we got in the 90s, and it was there was a lot of hip hop, a lot of rap, and then also metal, and we were just all over the place. I liked it all.
Was
And
your
I
brother
think
older than you?
yeah, both. I'm the youngest one. Yeah, I have
Okay,
one
because
brother
I'm
who's
older significantly than both of you, and I remember the '80s and those bands, and
yep.
and I was a big, Cyndi Lauper, Madonna,
Oh yeah,
the early
all
'80s.
of it. All the rock, the heavy metal, the all of it. I mean, we had everything. My brother always had his CD collection, but he had a couple that were in another little spot, and he had like Judas Priest, and he had all these bands, that we weren't supposed to listen to, and
Yep.
I think one of the probably the first CD that I actually went out and bought from Walmart on my own when I was in high school. And I bought this like 2 or 3 times, and I threw it away. Then I bought it again because I get guilty, and I gotta throw this away. And I would go back and buy it. Was the Ozman Cometh. It was Ozzy Osbourne,
Oh,
and it
yes.
was an album he came out with in the '90s. It had the cross on the, but that song "Back on Earth" just absolutely floored me. I loved it. I heard that song like someday, like I was like, I gotta find out what that is. I was like, oh, I knew like Ozzy before, like some of his older stuff, and like when he did like Lita Ford, he did that song with her. I love that. But then I heard that song from the album Ozman Cometh. It was Back on Earth, and I was just like, oh my god, I gotta find that. And I bought the album, and then it was like oh no, I'm gonna get possessed. I'm gonna get demons, and I threw it away. Then I went and bought it again, stuff like that. But that was like my first. Like, I actually went out and bought with my money. But I had Metallica and I had all this stuff, and but yeah, it was constantly a headache when I was growing up. When I got a little bit older, my later teens, early 20s, we had a band where I grew up in Minnesota. We had a band up in northern Minnesota, and we played. There was an elder that played, and he was from England though, because he was really cool. So he was really laid back, and you know, he lived in South London and stuff, and he loved the blues, loved jazz, and we play all these, Jimi Hendrix and all this stuff, but it was a constant headache at get-togethers because we would go and they would want us to go play and do the music at these get-togethers, but you'd always have to be dealing with people getting offended, right? And stuff like that, or maybe it was because one time we had he did a get-together at his house at this where he lived in Minnesota. And so all the people came to the house, and there was like a big deck out in front, and then the people were down below. So we were up on the deck playing, and he had the deck strung with these just white, clear white. They weren't colors, but clear white Christmas lights. And of course, after that, all of a sudden you're getting a phone call, and oh, Sister so and so was because of the Christmas lights, and you're like, what? Or the older brothers and sisters, oh, you played Hendrix, that's psychedelic, that's drugs. And it's like, dude, I wasn't even alive back then. I don't even know. I have no like drugs. That has no connection for me. I just like it. It's good music, right? So you had to deal with people and their traumas and it's like, dude, if you smoked pot back in the day, don't put that on me, right? I don't, but that was another thing. I loved the era of, like I told people the other day when I made a video and I said that I was supposed to. Oh, we did a live. I think it was last weekend or the weekend before, and I was with Jeff, and I ended up being late because I was watching Joe Cocker from Woodstock when he did "Help from My Friends," and I was just so mesmerized. I was just like glued to it. And the next thing I know, it was like, oh my god, I'm alive! I gotta go. Because I was just watching. I mean, that whole era, the psychedelic era, and all those artists that were just characters, just larger than life. I mean, that's we'll never see that again. That era,
Yeah.
some of those artists that were just, I mean, phenomenal
My guilty
performers.
pleasure were comedians, and
Oh yeah.
it never
Oh
changed. George Carlin, I'm sorry, he's king.
yes, yes. Thank
I
you.
would listen to him
Oh
even as a witness, quietly to myself.
yeah. Oh my goodness. I binge on Carlin all the time. Yeah, I see a Carlin video. Next thing you know, an hour later. Yeah. And that had a lot to do with after I got out of the organization. I was going hard on once I found the XJW sites, and I started watching those. Then I started watching the old stand up from Richard Pryor and Carlin and all these guys, and oh man, that was a big thing. And um, let's see here.
I love irreverent
Yeah.
humor.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. No, Carlin is definitely he's up there he's on the Mount Rushmore of just for at the very least, much more than just comedy. He was getting people to think. He was a philosopher.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Especially his
And it
take
was,
on religion.
oh my
Love
good, that's a
it.
classic. That routine is about religion, about saving the planet, about all those, the politics, how he talked about those things. I wish you were alive today. It would be
Me too.
hilarious. Whatever take he had on it, I mean, it would just be hilarious to see him. He'd be rolling in his grave right now. But yeah, yeah, all those things were, yeah, definitely a person that made you critically think about things and question the reality of that kind of matrix, like Justin said, like the matrix. Is this real? Is it? Yeah, yeah. Lord of the Rings, that was
Mm.
a big one too. That was always
Oh,
a big no-no. Yep.
yep. Harry Potter.
Harry
Hmm.
Potter. Oh yeah, that was all magic, magic.
Yep.
Good grief. Wizard of Oz. And that was before even my time. You couldn't
Yep.
watch Wizard of Oz.
Hmm. Yep. That's true. And such a good movie. That was the same thing too. People, they're drug. Didn't you see the poppies? That's opium, and she was high and all this stuff. And okay, whatever. I just like the movie. It's like, as a little kid, you didn't have any of those prejudices, and
Yeah.
the adults were just, someone got hung on the set of all the what?
Oh my
Uh,
gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, all the conspiracy. Not even Wizard of Oz was safe. Nothing was safe. Yeah, yeah. That's crazy. Well, people, we're getting down to the hour here, so I think we'll start to wrap it up here. And I want to just really thank both of you, Carol, Justin. What a great discussion. The time just flew.
Yes.
Didn't even feel like, man, almost like 2 hours here. Really great discussion. I hope everyone who's watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And to Justin's channel as well. If you haven't checked him out, go over there and check him out, support him. And hopefully this won't be the last time. Hopefully
Yep.
we can get this together. And also, Justin, on your end, if you want to ever set up something on your channel like this, just let us know.
Yeah.
Let me know. I'm good. I'm good for it.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
so it's always good to, I think, like I said, get different perspectives and talk about different things, and we can make this more regular in the future, I hope. And it's so nice to meet you too.
You too. You too.
And Carol, as always, thank you for setting us up and getting the ball rolling on this. And definitely we'll do more of this in the future as well.
Sounds great. Yeah. I think the lighthearted, the easygoing, the discussion kind of thing is sometimes easier for people to process. It's
Yes.
Yeah,
less in your face.
yeah. And one of the best therapies is just laughing.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Just laugh at things. We accept that all this stuff that's so confusing in life and everything. But hey, just and I think along the ways of we're talking about, like with the music, with comedy. I love the Gary Larson cartoons, The Far Side, Calvin and Hobbes. That
Oh
was
yeah.
a huge one when I was growing up. I had the books, and Garfield, and loved those, and all of those also like Gary Larson's take on just life, just ridiculous stuff. It's like, man, where do these guys come up with this stuff? And it was just so hilarious. All those things, and just things that get you thinking. you know but at the same time, sometimes, regardless of what we're going through, you just got to laugh about stuff, just to
Hmm.
get your mind off of things. I found that humor is one of the best drugs that's out there, and you know what, it's free and there's no side effects
Yeah.
at all, and it makes you feel better. It
Yep.
really does. Yeah. So I want to see what Jeff said here. Fireside is my lifelong favorite. Yeah, that's a classic. It's kind of like the old '90s Simpsons, right? That was the classic era of the Simpsons. Was back at that time. So if you know, you know. If you watched that back then a lot of that stuff they can't get away with today. But it was
Yeah.
hilarious. So all right, guys. Well, hope everyone has a good rest of their weekend and week coming up here, and we'll be in touch with everybody, okay? And stay tuned for more videos and more things coming up in the future. Thank you, everyone, for watching, your comments, and we'll see you in the next one. So take care, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
All right.